And action?
You're rolling.
Action. This is the start of the new YouTube. I'm so excited for you to join me in this interview. I'm still fresh in the afterglow of having Tom Bukovac, and this is going to be no less wonderful. Two of great friends. I have to say they are great friends, and two of the most wonderful musicians in Nashville. Kris Donegan, Rob McNelley.
Kris, Rob, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. And that's in no particular order. We could say Rob and Kris, but age and beauty. I didn't even know who's older than me. What?
Oh, I'm older.
Okay.
Yeah.
You don't act like it, but this is Robert and I talked about just kind of where this was going, and trust me, there's going to be guitar playing, but there's so much stuff to talk about, and I think you're going to get some information that is fresh for you. And there's just two ways to go about this guitar world. Sometimes you got to play, sometimes you got to digest and talk about it. So today we're in the latter, and I'm just going to dive into it. I think for context, I think what we need to do is set a little bit of where you guys grew up and how you came to this Nashville experience, right? Mm-hmm. So I'm gonna go back and forth, but since you're closest to me, I know this about you, but I think it's really important that you can talk to the camera, you can talk to me.
Okay.
It's just I always find myself, or you can talk to Robert, so it doesn't matter. But if we move around a little bit, Robert, you got us, right?
I got you.
Okay. So just give me the backstory of Rob McNelley.
Sort of cliff notes. Yeah. Well, I grew up in Ohio, Columbus area, and my father was a musician. He was in a band called McGuffey Lane. They were on Atco Records in the '80s, and they were a country rock band, and they were coming to Nashville and making records with Paul Worley and Marshall Morgan.
Yeah. How old were you when this was?
Well, it was all my life. I mean, they were kind of doing it, but by the time they got to Nashville, it was like early '80s, so I was about 12 years old. The first time I came down to Nashville when they were working at the Bennett House making a record.
Right.
And I was just down here vacationing, and I would go to the studio a couple times during that trip or whatever, so. But, I mean, I grew up with musicians coming in and out of the house all the time.
Were you playing at that age, even when you came to Nashville?
Yes, yeah. I started playing guitar around the time I was 8 years old. But by the time I was 10, I was totally into it. It was the main thing now.
Right.
And, I mean, it was just growing up with all kinds of a great record collection in the house, and musicians coming in and just showing me a chord here or there or whatever, and but my dad wasn't really like a guitar player. He was a songwriter, singer-songwriter more. So that's why I wanted to learn how to play guitar.
Yeah.
I didn't know about flashy playing or anything. Like my first guitar hero was probably Willie Nelson. Mm-hmm. And it was because he sang and then he'd play and then he'd sing and then he'd play. So it was just as much the song as it was the actual guitar playing,
that answers so much about you even at this stage.
Yeah, I've always been drawn to like the type of players that like a George Harrison type that always plays the perfect thing in a song. Yeah. Those are the chops that I admire the most. Mm-hmm. Even though I grew up in the '80s, I had to know how to. When I started playing in bands and started making a living in clubs and stuff, you had to be able to do all of that stuff that was of its time.
Yeah.
So that's how I learned that, but that's not what initially drew me to music or the instrument,
Yeah, and because we all work together.
Yeah.
All this stuff, by the way, you guys, as we're getting context just from their lives, the sponge period of your life, right? We're going to call that. 10 seems to be the sponge. Yeah. 10, 11. Yeah. But another point of context, we decided to do this. We decided to do this as a threesome. Let that one go, because we
naughty
worked together. And we just did a project together last week, right?
Yeah.
And we had a conversation about, I mean, these guys are on the internet. You've seen them, I'm sure, plenty of times. But just the idea of we were having a wonderful conversation about music. We just were really enjoying each other's insights and what have you. And we said we should do something like this together. Bring this on the road, so to speak. So that's. But okay, I already lost my train of thought. The context is I work with these guys individually, and lately as a pair, which has been staggering for me because, and we'll get into this, and what brought that on is what you were talking about, how you were attracted because of the songwriting and that. So anyway, I'm sorry to interrupt, but that's kind of that's. I mean, well, keep on the context of where you started, and then I think I'm gonna circle back after I get Kris's when you're done on then to what brought you why you gravitated towards session work and when that came in. But is there more to paint as far as on your youth?
No, that's probably the bullet points, musically speaking.
Bands?
Oh yeah, I was in all kinds of bands. Or you mean what bands were I into, or what did I do? I mean, I just started getting in bands and writing music.
Right. But so it was, but like age-wise, your first band was what, 13?
No, when actually when I was about 10, I started writing songs at 10. Somewhere I have a cassette of those songs, and I'm embarrassed by the lyric content because what do you know at 6th grade or whatever that was. Yeah. But musically speaking, I was actually kind of blown away by what I was already doing at that point, chord and melody wise.
Wow.
Now, somebody else is not going to hear what I hear in that, but I heard that stuff a few years ago, and it's amazing where you start from and what you realize. I think every musician is this way. What comes out of you naturally when you don't know, you shouldn't, before you learn any rules, is really kind of your style.
First thought, best thought.
Yeah. It really drove that home. Anyway.
No, it's awesome that you can look at your younger self and see the seedling of who you are. I mean, it's
all the instincts were there. I just didn't maybe have all the facility that you develop.
Right.
Yeah, it's kind of cool to hear things like that. So I would say to anybody out there, record yourself early on so that you can revisit this, no matter how embarrassing it is. Even if you're the only one that ever hears that, you'll learn something every time you go back and listen to different snapshots of where you were in your development musically. I do anyway. Yeah.
No, and it makes sense.
Yeah.
I didn't know. I mean, I knew you were from Ohio. I didn't know some of those things. So
yeah.
Well, okay. So yeah, and the good thing is because it's three of us. If you guys don't mind me being the traffic cop, it's like cutting. I'm producing, right? It's just like, okay, stop for a second.
Yeah.
And let's get the same soundbite from Kris.
Born here in Nashville, right, which is rare, but born not into a music industry family,
right,
which is also kind of rare. The people that are players that are my age, Miles and Derek and Jerry, all had family music business connections. I started playing when I was like 8, and then I was like super eat up with it, and then I didn't practice, and my parents were like, "We're not paying for lessons because you're not practicing," and so I put it down until 10. And then I was like, I want to try again, and I just kept going. And most of my early musical kind of like playing with people was in church. And because it was here, the other people in the church band knew, they knew like the studio musicianship was a thing. So when I was 13, I learned that studio musician was a job, and I was like, well, I'm going to do that. So I started asking questions because the guy that ran the church band was a producer, and he worked for like Word Records.
Remember his name?
Craig Adams. Do you know Craig? He's a
feel like I've heard
producer,
of it.
arranger, songwriter, kind of in the Southern gospel world. I've lost touch with him. I probably haven't talked to him in 20 years, maybe.
Okay.
But I would show up Sunday morning, Wednesday night, whatever, like it was a gig, and he would put a number chart in front of me, and I would start playing something, and he would go, hey, maybe try playing arpeggio here. I'd be like, what's an arpeggio? And he would teach me. And so I all of my early musical experiences playing felt very kind of like quasi-professional. I wasn't in a band until college.
Okay. Yeah.
All of my other experiences were like I would be in the pit band for a musical at a high school, or I would show up and do a gig. It was very much.
Which high school?
I can't remember. Maybe Overton. I didn't go there, but I just did.
Oh, okay.
I
so
just
was
would
it-
like get hired to do.
Because you were in Nolensville. You grew up in Nolensville.
Yeah, but I went to Ezel Harding.
Oh. Yeah.
And then my, like being maybe 10 or 15 years later, was all MTV and VH1 and the radio. Like it was a different, there wasn't a record collection at my house that was extensive, but there was the radio and MTV.
But it's the same for you, like at 10 when you got back in, like that sponge. It was-
Laser focused.
It would be nothing for you to play how many hours in a day?
All of them. I mean, 8 hours.
Yeah, same.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. I
Yeah.
mean, the second I got home from school, and
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, that seems to be a common theme amongst. I mean, I got you guys by 20, 25 years, whatever the age differential, but it's like I'm hearing just it's just like a replay on everything. Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't want to do anything else.
Well, what's interesting is I'm just thinking about as we work together through years now, and the you both are extremely lyrical players. You both have, I mean, just and you know, again, for those of you who don't know them yet, I mean, their technique and chops, I mean, it's totally proficient. I mean, you can play anything that needs to be. But Rob grew up in bands, so you had the songbook, right? The American. Because I was a little bit more like Kris. I had a guy I played, Gordon Kennedy, and I played in high school. We had a little band, but it wasn't like I was in bands. I was the same thing. I was eaten up with the idea from 13 but I did grow up in a musical family. My dad was a professional, and the idea of being a session player was the highest thing. It was like rock star, schmock stars. It's like forget that stuff, you know. But the idea of being in that elite club, you know, that was so you didn't have that. That wasn't a reality for you in Ohio at that point.
Yeah. I didn't know what a session player was until much later.
Like when?
Oh man, I mean, you know, I think I honestly I think it was when I became aware of Larry Carlton, because I read about him in a magazine, and there was this new instructional videotape that friends of mine had and let me borrow, the Starlicks video he had, and when I saw the opening thing of him playing at the Baked Potato on that. That was something I'd never really seen before, maybe that way, and so I wanted to know more about him, and whatever information you could find was, he's a session he plays on people's records.
What you saw that you hadn't seen before. You've seen people play at a club.
Oh yeah. It just was when I heard a record, like most of the world, I always thought it was the musicians on the cover making that music, probably at a young age. You know, the concept that there were other, and I'm talking like this is about when I was like 13, when I started going, oh, this guy plays on this record that I hear on the radio and this record over here that I like, and then names, and then the flood of names like Steve Lukather, you know, who I thought he's the guy in Toto.
Right.
If I knew anything about him at all, but then I discovered, it's not like on Beat It when all I heard was that Eddie Van Halen played on it, so I thought I was listening to Eddie Van Halen. Right. Well, on the solo, yes, but I didn't even think about the fact that somebody else had to play those parts, and it wasn't Michael Jackson.
Right,
you know,
right. Not the guy in the band.
Those concepts were. I mean, I was 13 when that record came out, or 14 maybe, or something like that. So. It was just realizing that those were jobs that existed. I just didn't know that, you know.
When all of a sudden that light flicked on, right?
Well,
was there like
the concept of that I started to understand that, but I didn't think of myself in those terms. I just wanted to write songs. I was so into writing songs. I was so into just singing and playing guitar. That's what I was.
Okay, so then I'm going to skip ahead, and since we'll just transition right into that. What brought you to this town, and brought you to that realization that you might have had the ability, and that all of a sudden that you wanted to pursue that? You had that was when you had the understanding, but when did it actually click?
Yeah. It wasn't until long after I was even here, because when I first got here, it was still in the mid '90s. Brent Mason was still like very much a strong footprint on all of the type of guitar playing that was happening on records, seemingly.
Yeah.
I mean, and I don't know, it wasn't until I was here for about 10 years playing road gigs and being part of the more touring part of this town. I came here because I just wanted to be close to the music business with more opportunity. I didn't know what those opportunities were going to be for me.
What 20?
25.
Okay.
And then so it wasn't until it occurred to other people that I could play on sessions before it did me. And people just started asking me to do it. I was in Delbert McClinton's band at the time. And so I was kind of in this other genre of music juxtaposed to this town, or running parallel to what this town does commercially most of the time. People just started seeing me in clubs and started asking me to do sessions. Cliff Aldridge worked at Windswept Pacific with Jeffrey Steele and Big Al at the time.
Did you play those demos?
I started to. And that was really kind of, and when I got in the room with those guys, like especially Big Al, I had so much fun doing this whole thing that I didn't really know if I was cut out. I didn't think of myself that way. They were just like, we like what you do. Just go in and be yourself. I probably annoyed a lot of people, other band members, I mean, trying to just walk in and just do what you hear on a song. And I was pretty good at that point at reading a number chart, I could follow along at least. I don't know. It just started, people asking me to do it is what got me in the situation. Then I realized I really liked it. And this is actually what I really like to do.
But no fear at that point. Absolutely. Just, it's like.
I just trusted the fact that if they were asking me to do it, they saw something in me that would work.
Yeah.
So, yeah, of course I was nervous, but they were encouraging me.
Yeah, it's not something that you were actively wanting. So there's so if you don't have to have something, you're pretty free at that point, right?
I think that is what's different in my case. A lot of people move to this town specifically to become a session player. Mm-hmm. So that's all they're focused on. I just want to play guitar for a living and have fun doing it. And I mean that is really kind of stayed my mission statement all along. I don't want to make my living having to dress up in a tux to do it. Yeah. Boy, I don't even know if I could answer that question, because things would have to get to the point where that seemed like a real reality for me to say yes or no. Probably not. I don't know. I would busk on the street maybe before that. I would have more fun doing that and make less money probably. But I mean, I'm worthless in a situation where I don't believe in the situation.
What if the shirt?
Because I've done it. Huh?
What if the shirt was ruffly?
No.
Okay.
I can't. I don't know. If I'm there and it's a situation that I really, you know what I mean? I mean, if you can't invest in something, you really can't give yourself over to it wholly, and somebody else can.
Okay,
and wants that.
See this? Okay, so I'm going to put a bookmark in this, right where the spot is. But the irony of what you're saying, and there is an irony that's not lost on me. And aside before the irony, what I'm loving about this, all of a sudden I'm realizing that I think I know you guys. I'm now everything's going like this. So this.
Oh, wow.
But the irony is that as a session player, and we'll get into this because I have some specific questions about it. But the irony is that the contract, the nature of being a session player, is that you basically sacrifice your identity for a payment, a nice payment, for a 3-hour increment of time to some degree. But what I'm hearing and seeing out of you is this beautiful little belligerent 10-year-old self that's basically saying to a point. And I've noticed when you've got a funny sense, you've got a great sense of humor, and you're such a team player, as both you are. But I think that's probably what serves you also, because you're not always asking people, who do you think I am? Of course, we could go back to the first time we worked together, and that was But before we lose, I got to keep you guys kind of on the same part so we catch.
Yeah.
So in contrast, you were saying that you were exposed to this and you were intrigued by it. So you didn't have to come to town; you were already here. But tell us about your 1 mile journey as opposed to the 500-mile journey.
Well, it feels like 100 miles. Like, it was super long, but I was laser focused on, I want to play sessions. I don't want to tour. I played one gig on Broadway my whole life. I was horrible at it. I was like,
tell us about that.
I can't even remember who it was. Somebody said, do you want to come to Rippy's and play a 6 to 10 slot or whatever? And I was like, sure. And there were so many songs, and nobody was watching, and nobody cared, and it was like 3 or 4 days notice. And I thought, oh, there's a set of muscles that people are flexing when they come down here. They know a repertoire of songs. They say yes to the gig, and they already know 35 of the 40 songs. I said yes, I didn't know any of them, because while I grew up here, I also kind of had no interest in country music, especially at the time. I would hear it on the radio at the hardware store where I was working. Yeah. And so it was in the water, but like I wasn't really intent on learning that stylistically. And I knew that Brent Mason was a thing, and I was like, I don't know if I care about learning how to do that. This was 15-year-old me, like fully kind of like, I didn't like Steely Dan. I didn't like anything like that when I was a kid. I grew into all of that later. I learned about all that. I was kind of like, I just wanted to sound like grunge and rock and roll and whatever, which is not a great way to be a session player. But I ended up coming to some of those things later on. And I think that's part of what my journey was like getting hot wired and being like, oh, I got it. And Audley Freed saying, dude, start at the first Steely Dan record. That's a different band. And then me listening and going like, oh, and then following the progression. And so my journey to being where I am now included a fair amount of like playing on Americana records, playing on indie records, and not being mostly in East Nashville for a long time, right? Playing on that kind of music, and then crossing the river, so to speak, and kind of starting over, playing on a bunch of demos and figuring out like, oh, there's a whole skill set over here that I have to learn how to do to be applicable to this kind of music. Like wanting to be a session player but not quite knowing what that meant until much later on was part of the deal for me.
What's the age we're talking about right here?
I mean, I probably did my first session when I was 15. I had a Strat and a Hot Rod Deluxe and a small stone phase shifter, and somebody drove me, and I did it, and it was cool.
Where was it? Do you remember?
No, I don't remember. In a basement studio somewhere.
What year? I mean, around about
99, maybe.
I'm trying to picture any 15-year-old on a session.
And it was like,
That's when I had my first session.
it was okay.
Really?
Yeah.
And it was like I knew somebody, and I got invited down. It wasn't like a high stakes thing.
Yeah, but that's a big deal at 15,
It was a big deal, and it was a big deal to do it, and it was a big deal to kind of survive it.
What was it, a tracking session or was it an
It
over?
was tracking.
So you were playing with older musicians.
Yeah.
Abject fear or too young to have fear?
No, like just excited to be doing it, and ignorant confidence at that point. I think the abject fear didn't come until later. I grew into that too.
Well, and both, and again, so as I'm listening, go ahead. What, Robert?
Well, I would love to hear that session because I bet it was good.
I probably was. I don't even I don't even know how to get a hold of it.
So this is a three-way conversation, but well, four-way. We got Robert, and then we have all of you who are sticking with us on this thing. I think there is a bit of a thread here. You guys can see this, right? There's a wonderful self-confidence. You can call it ignorance or but whatever. But even you talking about listening to 10-year-old you.
Yeah.
I would also describe both of you as painting from the edges inward in the way that you play in context of Nashville. Yeah. I grew up in Nashville too, and I was, I didn't really have any desire for Nashville until I was in my 30s. So I even went farther out on that limb, and I got to paint on the edges too, which this Nashville has become this just beautiful melting pot of music, and this is inevitable. I'm just going to be skipping around so much, but in the world of Nashville country music, modern country music, just the big tent of Nashville, you guys have brought so much outside influence and made it bedrock, integral part of what country music is nowadays. We always joke about Kris talk about really indie, Mr. Indie. I mean, you can look at his shoes and just know, you get a sense. The hair.
I wore these for you
You're
today.
pretty famous for your footwear.
This is
not like that.
This is an outsider who has been drugged to the inside, and rightfully so. But same with you. I mean, you're both. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong on this, but there's such a heavy rock influence in every. I mean, and I hear the R&B, but I would. Yeah. But is it came from rock music? Where you?
Well, yeah. I mean, I say my first guitar hero was Willie Nelson, but once I heard the Beatles and the Stones, Keith Richards in particular, that's when I had to have an electric guitar.
More Keith than George?
Well,
at that time?
The Beatles songs sound good on acoustic. I was learning all those songs on acoustic, learning the chord changes. But when I heard, in particular, the Rolling Stones record 12 by 5, which is one of their earlier records, I mean, it just lit me up so much. I didn't know they were doing some Chuck Berry songs on there. Mm-hmm. I thought it was their music, and something about that. It was like, I have to have an electric guitar and an amp now. Mm-hmm. I want to stand up and play guitar. You know what I mean? And I don't know.
It comes through, Robin. You're in all the things that I heard. It doesn't always have to do with me, but because I get the luxury of getting to call you both, and you guys paint in such broad and diverse strokes on all the music. But what I can hear, what I'm enjoying about this conversation is I can hear Keith in about everything that you do.
Both that's great.
The attitude, the composition, and finding lanes. And the same thing with you, Kris. I mean, you self-admitted there was more of a grunge backbone, right?
But like my first guitar hero was Stevie Ray Vaughan.
Well,
I was of that age, right?
Yeah.
I was seeing that on Austin City Limits on PBS as a kid. It was like, I'm going to do that forever.
And those big paws that you got,
That's right.
I hear that.
I do over vibrato sometimes.
No, but it's a very manly vibrato. Yeah. This is not soft touch, and this is confident. Yeah. But it comes, fair enough to say, it comes from more of a rock blues basis than anything.
Yes. You know what I always thought, I feel like I have to say this before we move on. The idea that session players all have to be chameleons. I never really thought that. Because I thought like, well, Brent Mason just sounds like Brent Mason, and Dan Huff sounds like Dan Huff, and Rob McNelley sounds like there are real individual spirits in all of the greatest session players. And so there was part of me that thought session playing is about having a voice, but being broadly applicable to a lot of musical circumstances. But not like you totally lose yourself, but like, oh, well, Dan can play rock, and Dan can play blues, and Dan can play country. But it all, well, but it all comes from an individual place, right? Does that make sense?
No, it makes sense, and what I love, but what I just to catch that one spot, because the reason I was smiling is because both of you got just a little bit of fuck you attitude, which I love. I mean, and it's smile, and your smiles hide it. But that's the most attractive thing about, like, when I can just say this because I get to experience this with you guys. So this is what has been a source of joy, and also I get so much because of that. You guys don't come in to the studio with this attitude of tell me who I am.
Oh yeah.
There is firmly rooted identity with each of you. You're both receptive to ideas. Go ahead, take it.
Well, you see us when we work with you because you allow that. You encourage.
I need it. Well, I need it.
The thing that surprised me about getting you touched on this, started to, and we probably will. The first few times I worked with you, I had such a different assumption of what that would be like from hearing other players talk about being on your sessions. But what surprises me the most, or did once I got in there, and this is not a bad. I didn't take this as a bad thing. It's the same kind of things we hear about doing a session with Mutt Lange or Steely Dan, where they are looking for a lot of times a perfect execution. But what you assume that means is play everything perfect. What that means is get the perfect vibe on that part. Took me a second to understand that.
What was your initial idea? What was your what's the word I'm trying to think? You had a certain thought, an idea of what it was going to be like. What was that idea like at first? What did you expect?
Well, if you sang me a part in the control room or pointed out a part on a demo we were listening to, I really liked that part. I would do that verbatim.
Oh, okay.
Like if you sang it to me, I was going to play exactly the notes and the length of the notes and the whole phrasing and all that. Exactly, take after take after take. But what I realized after a while was those are just jumping off points. And that's what's cool. Because we do work with other producers that sing you a verbatim part, and that's all you're going to do for 3 hours or whatever, you know. And so I mean, once I realized that you actually are drawn to personalities within something, that's that, and you create, Dan. I mean, you have this great way of making everybody feel open. Like once I realized I could search around for something and fall flat on my face for a few takes, and as long as I was on the hunt of something that you thought was valuable, you allowed that to go and just focused on some other aspects and let me just kind of blow it a little bit.
Being on that other side too, which is,
I know.
Which is how you want to be treated, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But there are producers that we work with sometimes that don't know anything about, never played an instrument really, and they don't understand those things, and so you just kind of got to figure out how to get to where they're trying to go, and there's good things that come out of that too. You know, that's just a different approach that you have to be good at getting through that process. But you see us work with you, and you're a guitar player, so once we became guitar buddies in a way, like I feel like we just kind of could kind of treat these things like, you know, we're still having fun with this.
Yeah.
You know, and I love that.
Me too. Me too. I mean, well, okay. You're. I feel real comfortable right now talking about me. This is not what this is supposed to be. So,
all right.
but then, no, thank you. That's a great compliment. I appreciate that. And it's taken me. You didn't know younger Dan producer as
Okay.
much. So that means I've graduated, and that makes me feel good. But your experience.
I'm probably the most recent guitar player pull into your camp. Is that fair to say?
Yes, totally. And I can give that. I was already working with Rob. Yeah,
Right.
And I specifically needed. I talked to my collaborator, dear friend Justin Niebank. I said, I need a wild card. I need somebody that's so not of this thing that I'm doing, because I mean, I've been pretty vocal about the idea that, you know, when you're creating music, you know, you get the, you know, as a studio player, you're part of a team. As a producer, you're the coach of a team, right? So you have the responsibility, and it's overwhelming when you realize the limit to your ideas, and either you fess up to that, and it opens you up. It takes away the fear, because if you're trying to hide the fact that you don't have all the ideas, that's way too much work. So you just go, I don't know.
Yeah.
And so what I realized I needed yet, this is like, because Rob McNelley was not enough at that point.
Yeah,
no,
right.
No, that's totally that. But and I don't want to belabor this point, but it was Justin knew intuitively what I was saying, and he said, you know, Kris Donegan? No, never heard of him. You might ought to give him a call. And this is, I'm going to also bookmark this. I'm not going to, I want to hear your side of this. Yeah, sure. But I want to book this, and don't let me forget this, please, Robert, or either of you guys.
Okay.
Because this really plays into this idea of how you also get into session work. You kind of alluded to it a minute ago. You know, people just heard you. This was another thing that happened. We're living in, you know, 10 miles apart, 15 miles apart. What I didn't know of your existence until somebody who I trusted said, maybe you should try this guy. But that's how we met. So anyway.
And so many times someone that you trust will say, maybe you should try this guy, and you just don't.
You don't?
You don't. And on this day you did. I almost told you no for that session.
Love it.
Because I was out of town. I was going to be on vacation with my family. And I got the text, you know, Frog goes, can you work for Dan for such and such days? And I told Heather, I go, I'm about to have to turn down my first Dan Huff ask. And she goes, no, you're not. Fly home. She was like, you should fly home for that one. She was like, that's worth flying home. So I got on a plane. I came, and
that's a good. You should go into the story. We got all the time.
And I, where I normally might have been pretty nervous to get into a room with someone with your pedigree, both in production and on the guitar. It's like I knew all about you, I knew who you were. It was so big in my mind that I thought, like, okay, I can't do that thing where you go in and try and spit back what you think they might do. Right. You know, like if I'm subbing for Rob, I can't go sit in a room and try and do what Rob would do, because then it's like, I think I was thinking about this a lot at the time that you called me, and we were talking about it a lot. Like, you get a call and you're subbing for Rob, and you go, well, they always hire Rob, so I got to do what Rob would do so that they're happy. Right. And then they don't like it, but they don't know what you actually bring to the table. They know what your counterfeit version of someone else is.
Right.
And so I thought, like, okay, Tom's going to be there. You're there. The only thing left for me to do is just show up and be myself. And for whatever reason, that day, I just walked in, showed up, and on the first song, you were like, why don't you take the fills on the second verse? And I thought,
oh, were you playing electric guitar?
yeah.
Okay.
Because
so
I don't think you knew that either.
Oh, okay.
Right? I think you thought I was going to show up
yeah,
with a utility rig or whatever.
I probably remember a little different. So go ahead,
and because I remember there being a little bit of like, oh no, because you were like, I think you wanted me to play acoustic because the last time I'd worked with Justin was like 7 years ago, and I had played acoustic instruments, and so that was probably what you were asking for and what you recommended. And so but I sent all my shit, and we just made this record with 2 electrics, and Tom and I bouncing back and forth on acoustics. And you go, why don't you just take the fills in the second verse? And the first one I did, I looked into the control room backstage, and you stood up and went like this. And I was like, okay, I guess we're in. And there was something about that day that made me so immediately comfortable. And it was the beginning of me understanding how much better I thrive in a cheerful environment and in an environment that's supportive, because a lot of environments are not. They're a little bit tense and a little bit negative. And I have a real sort of negative self-image, and I can try and like beat myself into submission to be better. Right. And you jumping up and down in the control room is like, oh, well, that feels better than any other form of motivation. And for whatever reason, I was immediately comfortable, and I never got uncomfortable.
That's something you're great at.
Yeah.
Your bedside manner.
Thank you.
You should do a course on just that, man. I mean, I'm not kidding, because
That's true.
There's so many producers who I don't think are trying to be any kind of way.
Sure.
They're just direct and to the point, and that's fine. I like that too.
Yeah.
But man, when I've watched you in several situations in several different bands, like maybe somebody brings in a touring member of their band that doesn't really do this, and maybe doesn't have a full, knowledge of how to get the tone you're looking for, or whatever, And man, the way you handle that, you bring something out of them that they probably were not capable of. You made them better on that session. I watch it, and that's amazing. That's something you do that I think is a real strength that you have. Yeah. You can literally take any player and get something out of them that sounds famous.
Well, we've all. Thank you. I mean,
it's all because of how you make them feel.
Well, it's part of me doing this for a long time, being a player.
Yeah.
And you guys would do the same thing if you were handed the reins, right? Because experientially, we've all been in situations where you're cast one day perfectly, and you get the assumption, well, this is easy, right?
Yeah.
This of course, and then the very next day, everything's switched, and everything who you are is not your. It's like you're supposed to be the blonde, with the big smile, and they need a brunette,
Yeah.
I mean that, just to use that crass analogy, but so casting is massive, but also I never did good being browbeaten. I never did good when people handcuffed me too quickly, like that I couldn't explore, right? And I did that. I guarantee I did that when I was a young producer. So I felt like I had to have all the ideas. But the main thing is when you're not fearful to be who you are, right?
Yeah.
All of a sudden it does open. It blooms open, and then the discussion begins. And that, I think, so I'm gonna. This is where my head starts exploding, because you guys are bringing up stuff that I think is so important for people that are be listening to this right now. Some folks aren't going to be interested in this, and that's fine. But for people that haven't had the experience, I have had a lot of questions. How do you get into this club? Because it seems so impenetrable to get into this club, and the fact is, each of you guys can do stuff that I've been playing guitar a lot longer than you, and each of you can do stuff that I cannot do. I'm sure there's some things I can do that you can't do, but that's not the point. It's well, and I don't say that lightly. I'm not patronizing.
I can't buy this house.
Go ahead. Let that one go. Yeah. So, but it has nothing to do with my guitar playing. But I think the thing that I'd love to communicate really directly is this is not a contest.
Right. Yeah.
Because we live in the world, Tom and I were talking about this the other day, and part of what I love about our community is that we play well with each other.
Yeah.
Guitar players, I mean, this is something that and this is not exclusively you two, but I've seen it so many times with both of you. You're both alpha musicians. You can carry everything yourself, everything, and yet you choose to be in a band together.
Yeah.
And not just exist, but you enjoy the creative back and forth. Nobody has to be the star.
Yeah. Yes.
Everybody can be the star, but the point, I guess, what I'm making on this about, let's just call it the club, because there are certain elements of exclusivity, and it's more based on, there's an economic component that is always prevalent. It costs a lot of money to do a session. It costs you're dealing with artists, you're dealing with schedules. What that implies is it needs to be done efficiently and fairly time efficiently, or on time.
Yes.
So that raises the bar right there, right? So I've always had this conversation. There's so many great musicians that I know that aren't necessarily session players. They're as good as anybody I've ever met. Yeah. But specifically, what we can also talk about, I think, the three of us, is we all have our sets we have our strengths, our weaknesses. I mean, there's, I'm happy to talk about what I can't do, or at least what I don't think I can do. I think knowing that is freeing ultimately, because you don't have to be everything. But how, it's like the 800-pound gorilla question is, how do you get in this thing? Mm-hmm. Because it's like somebody's playing their guitar. They watch, they listen to us, and they go, well, man, I can do that. We can talk about under pressure. Do you have idea A, B, C, D, E, F, G? When the producer goes, no, I don't like that, don't like that. Mm-hmm. That's a skill set. But let's just take it right on first blush. You definitely hear what we're doing. Well, you can play it. You might even play it better. But I'm still not getting asked to get in. Mm-hmm. So let's start with you this time. Yeah. So what do you say to those guys, right?
It's like a time game for most people.
Meaning what?
Meaning the people that I'm working with now, I've known for 15 years. And some of them had much more success much earlier than I did. But like Evan Hutchings and I were making records easily 15 years ago as kids.
What kind of records? Like custom records?
Custom records, indie. There was kind of a pretty rockin' indie Americana scene in Nashville. Maybe it still exists. Like pre like Americana Fest, pre when it kind of got solidified. It was just us in a basement or in a room in East Nashville, 3 pieces at a time, working for $300 or $400 a day. It was functionally like doing demos, but it was record making.
Right.
So we were making just a couple songs a day. We were spending time. So I was like practicing record making, and then I was, doing a little bit of road gigs here and there, and I started to meet other people, and I started to get pulled in on. It's my story is kind of that. It's like just being around for a long time and getting a call.
Are you saying Evan? But just so I'm clear,
yeah,
you're saying Evan, he leapfrogged you.
He wound up in Music Row before I did.
Okay.
And I spent more years away from that, and then like I met Derek Wells 15, 16 years ago.
Right.
And then he started to pull me in 10 years after that on some demos that he was doing or leading or whatever, but he was well established at that point. And my transition from indie custom records to masters, I guess, to Music Row was a long time. Like I didn't have an overnight success. It was a very long time, and it was a lot of trial and error and learning how to successfully serve this kind of song instead of totally just do whatever you want, because that's not, you can't be, I'm guest starring on somebody's song, and if they want it to sound like X but I want it to sound like this, that's ultimately more important, and I kind of had to learn how to do that a little better. Does that make sense? Is that a good, is that a good answer?
It totally makes sense, but it implies to me that part of getting into this club, right, this racket, is that there's a massive element of trust, because if somebody's going to call, well, like just between you and me, right? When Justin Niebank, I described something, and he thought about it for a minute, and we're friends, we're peers, we've made so many records together. There is a sense of responsibility between us, trust. He's not going to throw me a bone that's rancid. You know what I mean?
Right.
You know what I mean? It's just basically because he knows the result of that is that if he tells me, there's no guarantee in any of this, but if he told me somebody flippantly and it didn't work, well, I've just wasted not just my day, but my relationship with the artist that I've called.
Yeah.
So that's a massive component that's really tough for people to understand. Why I'm as good as this guy, by rights I should be invited, but this is still a people business, right?
Yeah, it's all, man, those relationships you make when you move to town are so important, and it takes years to get to that level of trust with somebody, because I mean, I don't know what it's like to walk into a record meeting, like a record company meeting that you may have to deal with and look at a budget and keep things like somewhere within, there's more jobs than just the music, right? Sure. To what you do. And when it comes down to casting a band, I would think if I were in that position, I would want to make sure I trusted. I was hiring people that I know can do what we need to do. Mm-hmm. And there may be, like you said, on any instrument, anywhere, there are people that can play any of us under the ground, under the table, play circles around us, whatever I'm trying to say there. But that's not always, that's just one part of it, And I mean, nowadays, we're all on social media, and people can get to us. Like when I moved to town, that didn't exist. You couldn't just type a message to your favorite session player and get in the room with them to talk about this stuff. And now you can. And so much has changed about how the business works and what people can do now that we couldn't do when I moved to town, like doing tracks at your own house for people. You couldn't. That wasn't a thing.
You both
really,
do that, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, we do.
have to.
Yes.
Yeah, yes.
No, anyway. So anyway.
Daily.com.
Yeah. No, but no. So I mean, when I meet young players, like I yes, all the variables have changed, but I really still think when you asked how do you get into this, nothing's fair.
Nope.
This business is certainly not fair.
No.
You can be the greatest alive, and it's not like Michael Jordan is the greatest. He gets on a team and he gets a huge contract because he's great. You can be great in this business and nothing happens. Well, I mean, and that's sad. I wish it weren't that way, but it's that way. And so I think it still comes down to every time you're in the room with somebody, you do everything you can to make that an enjoyable experience. Mm-hmm. Sometimes even if you fell short in some areas musically, you connect with somebody and they see you and they go, okay, maybe I didn't know what this guy was capable of and he wasn't the perfect call for this thing, but I see things in this person that I love and I'm going to hire him for this now, or I'm going to think of them when I'm doing this. I mean, it's just all about do everything you can to make that experience something people want to repeat.
Sometimes it feels like people discover things about you over a period of time.
Oh, yeah.
Like there are people that I work for now that I feel like we danced around each other for a year
Yeah.
Is it right? Does it work? Does it this? Does it that? Is it? And then eventually it clicks. Like you learn each other. You start to feel each other out, and you go like, oh, I know the language you're speaking. You know the language I'm speaking. All of a sudden it does this. It's not all like walking into the room first day with you and it being like, and then I saw you every week for 18 months after that. Like that seems kind of, that's not always how it is.
No, Rob's and I first experience was just the opposite.
Yeah.
You remember that?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You think it's good to tell about that?
Oh, yeah. I think we can talk about that. It was, so that was kind of a little bit of a custom, I think of it as a custom thing. It was a tribute record for Paul McCartney music.
Yeah, it had something to do with a Nashville version, right? So I had, by that point, I had produced enough hits where they would ask me to be a part of some of these things, and
yeah, you were producing an artist.
I was loosely a part of it because
and I didn't know you were going to be there that day. I was glad to hear that you were going to be there, but then the song we were doing was Blackbird, and this is something you run into that players that don't think about these situations. That song's in G all day long. Should never. That song's in G all day long. This is a rule. Paul McCartney made the law on Blackbird. It's in G.
And there's one guitar part too.
Yeah. And there's no electric, so they didn't even finish the recording. But anyway, but they wanted you to play acoustic. Do you remember that?
No, I don't.
And now we're in B flat. And you're sitting there, and what was really fun is like they kind of just. The electric guitar was such an afterthought, and it was just fine. And I knew you were in there. You were playing capoed way up, probably 3rd fret, playing out of G position. Yeah. But it's like what I loved about that was that watching you handle a curveball like that, and you're such a pro and you're so good, you can just do it, right?
Well, to be fair, I'm not a great acoustic guitar player, but I knew enough about that. And I had enough confidence. So yeah.
So I mean, and that's the kind of level you got to get to before you're even going to start to try and get. Anybody should be tasked with that and be able to just do it. All right.
But you were setting in a. I'm gonna slow pitch you.
Yeah, go ahead.
You were set in a situation. I mean, as session players, we all want to please because our next job is predicated on somebody saying that guy's really good. Get him on the next session.
Yeah, sure.
So you, to some degree, we're all past the point emotionally where we had to dominate the session. And be the superstar because that doesn't play well in the studios either. With the team, but you were. It wasn't an impossible situation. It just wasn't. I mean.
Oh yeah, the guitar playing had to be guitar playing that you wouldn't even necessarily notice. Yeah. But I didn't think. Honestly, I didn't think about it that way. I thought there's only one thing I can do. The guy just wants me to kind of create atmospheric kind of sounds, which that's a very viable modern day thing you encounter all the time, but. Honestly, it's kind of like a keyboard pad in that it's just nebulous sounds that are happening behind, way back here. And man, I mean, I figured, I did have the thought where I would love to play some guitar with Dann that he might dig. But with this music in front of me, it's like, well, don't do something that shouldn't be there either, because that's highly unprofessional. That's not musical at all, and that's not who I want to be anyway. So I just kind of did it, and we had a couple nice conversations that day. That's what I enjoyed about our interaction was, watching you just blow down Blackbird no matter what key it was, and just kind of just sitting back there just.
Most definitely live to fight another day, but to your point of what you said earlier, you took a situation that it wasn't life or death. It wasn't. I don't want to be too dramatic, but I guess I'm projecting. If I was in your spot, you know, and you know, here's another producer. I'd like to work with this guy because
Yeah.
that's just another producer I can work with, and you know, it's a job thing, right? If I'm projecting, it's like, well, shit. It's like I need to find something that identifies me.
Yeah.
But there was nothing I was giving you to do that. And you know, to my point, I had something to do, so I was doing a job,
Yeah.
and it wasn't about that. But what impressed me and what came back was that you dealt with that situation with such dignity and professionalism, and you know, it's like you were above having to be so needy. So the next time, I don't even remember the next time that we worked together.
Yeah.
But it segued right into that, and it was.
Yeah.
I don't know that I got to be honest. I don't know that I didn't think about that. You know, it's like somebody says, you know, most people aren't thinking about you. You know,
Exactly.
most people aren't thinking about me. You know, we all think, you know, that everybody's thinking about us all the time. No, they're thinking about themselves.
Yeah.
But to that experience right between us, somebody that didn't have the maturity could have damaged any possible connection.
That's true.
And I think that's another thing, you know, to this conversation about ultimately music. You have to have the goods. You have to be on a level, right? I mean, proficiency, sounds, your amps. I mean, both you guys are. Man, this is every time I say a sentence, I don't even have to look at the notes because both you guys are sound wizards too. So. Okay, enough said on that one, because now I'll forget.
Yeah.
I'm going to indulge in this for a minute because, like, and this is the truth. This is not patronization. I can patronize like anybody, but I'm not doing it here because I've said it to both of you when we worked, right?
What are you going to say?
How I want that sound.
Oh, yeah,
I
yeah,
covet. I want that. How? I mean, I have guitars. I have amps, and I you know, it's like I don't sound like that. And you know, that's a natural thing. Everybody always sounds better than you, right?
Yeah.
But
I
it's-
I hear. Yeah. I love sitting across the room from him and just being like, wow.
Okay, all right. Well, then I'm going to twist it for a minute. Then, okay, let's strengths. Rob, rate Kris.
Oh, man.
What is? And you can add at the end what you hate about him. But what if you're doing if you're trying to talk somebody into hiring Kris,
Yeah.
why?
Oh man. Well, first of all, I hear personality, and I love that because it makes it. When I hear a personality in anybody,
Yeah.
like that makes everything so unique, and he's got it. I mean, you know, like every tone he dials up is very interesting, even if it's straight ahead. You know, even if it's just there's really nothing in terms of effects on it, you can hear the intent and the heart in what he does, and that's what I gravitate to with any player first.
Yeah.
Man, I mean, you know, he came up in an era where probably the things he was influenced were people doing things with guitar that are new and interesting. So he's got this whole like, I think all the indie stuff that you did really did serve you. It maybe you and I have talked almost daily for years. I mean, we're huge friends.
I literally can't remember how we started talking on the phone with each other.
I don't
but
know.
I can't remember a time where we didn't call each other at least every other day.
We relate a lot.
Keep talking.
On,
The heat's not on enough. Freezing.
Oh, there you
okay.
go.
Go ahead.
I mean.
All right, he's gone.
Yeah. Well, I remember the first session we ever did together. You remember that? You remember what
Was
it
it at
was?
Benchmark?
It was at Benchmark.
I do remember
It
that.
was something, and man, you know, I mean, you were definitely at that point doing a lot more maybe indie things. Is that correct?
yeah,
okay,
totally.
so, and I mean, you know. I just found everything that you did very interesting because I would listen to a lot of things like that, but that wasn't at that point in my career what I was getting called on to do.
Sure, yeah.
So, I mean, here was somebody that was actually doing things I liked hearing on newer records.
Yeah.
And I was like, this is so cool, you know? And I mean, I know we talked for a long time because, I mean, you felt like that kind of typecast you in a lot of situations
Totally.
where people would be like, didn't listen to anything like that. And they're like, I don't know what to do
yeah, right.
with what he's giving me
Right.
or whatever, you know?
And to be fair, like I didn't know how to go like, here's a Les Paul into a Marshall, and it sounds like the perfect rhythm track.
Right.
Like, so there was a little bit of a deficiency on that side of the street for me
Yeah.
too, where it's like I'm also maybe not giving you exactly what you need because you can't be 100% this guy. You have to be 10% that guy in the right setting.
I would
Right?
just
I had to
say
learn.
we learned. I feel like I've learned so much from you, just watching you do things a different way than I would have thought about doing.
Yeah.
it. And I love that. You know, I mean, we really respect each other. I think because of our friendship.
Yeah.
So when we bring that into the studio, it's like, man, I want to be, when I know, we're both good at doing this with each other. When you know the other person is doing the thing that, that's what this song
That's it,
really
yeah,
needs,
yeah.
I'm going to get completely out of the way of that and find something that tonally doesn't interfere. I don't walk all over that part. I actually help make that part shine.
Didn't we have a thing? Didn't we have a thing the other day where
I was
You
doing
came up-
something really awesome. No.
no, didn't we have a thing where
Yes.
you came up with the hook lick, a signature lick that I loved,
Okay.
but then why did you end up playing it?
My sound.
Oh, that's
You wanted
right.
my sound to be the sound that played the hook.
Right, that's right.
But I
That
took Rob's
yeah,
part.
that lick went through different you actually, there was a second where I thought maybe you tried to get the acoustic instrument to do it too.
Yeah.
Like yeah, and that's something I love about session work. It's so collaborative. I love collaboration. On a lot. Well, I was told this after the fact, and I heard it on these records. Some of those Lady A records I played on with Paul Worley, some of the string lines when they would put stuff on there were actually guitar parts first.
Yeah.
But Paul was like, nah, it's too samey on the guitar alone. So I took your parts and made them string lines or whatever. I love when that happens.
Well, you see, we're going back the other way too, but I'll forget things if I don't say them. So I'm
Well,
gonna
I
just
got to
put it-
talk about what I like about Rob.
Oh.
Well, no, there's two. But just to wrap that little story up,
Yeah.
because I remember at the end of the day, I said, "You owe Rob a lick." So, but here, I'm just going to highlight this because that actually this actually happened on the session, and in a lesser human. I could see how somebody might feel a little bit slighted by that. It's like, well, I came up with this was mine. I mean, because you did come up with this was your idea. You were totally not that way, and I think that's yet another brick in this building of this idea of session playing because you could have I'm going to take my lick and go home, but you weren't. And it was and this is the appealing thing about like when I'm in the studio with you two guys, there's like exactly what you said. If he finds a lane, you're going, take it, I'm going to find another lane.
Yeah.
And that's I don't think that's those are superpowers in my estimation because I think human nature it's tough because sometimes that means that rightfully you thought of something, Kris didn't think of that. And I mean, but I guess we're all comfortable enough you're comfortable enough with him, comfortable enough with yourself, thinking long term. You made the experience for the producer on the session so easy. It was just I get to pick and choose what I like without worrying about fighting amongst the band and say, hey, this is me.
Right.
I think that's these little vignettes. Not any one of them are the totality of what we're talking about being in the session, but they all this stuff makes up the whole of this experience, and it's not an experience that you can. Boy, I'm using that word a lot today. That's what it is. But you you don't know this until you get in there and do it, right?
Yeah.
I mean, that's and I'm sure it's gone the other way, but I digress. So turn it back around, like what? And I have another important question to ask both of you after you gush on Rob, what you hear in Rob.
Can I just say something
No,
about
'cause
the
this
other
is my
day?
question.
Just real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, do you remember what happened when you actually came out and you were like, "Man, does it bother you that I gave away your lick?"
Oh, yeah.
And I said, and I was like, "No, I don't really care." He's like, "Well, they're going to get credit for it." And I said, "Well, not really, because as long as you remember."
Yeah.
I mean, I just care about it being
Yeah,
a
it
great
doesn't matter.
record.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
it's somebody else's record. It's not my record.
Yeah.
You know. Anyway, go ahead.
It's easy to sit next to Rob and play because I'm a fan of your guitar. I'm a fan of your guitar playing. I have been for a very long time.
Back at you.
And I don't feel like it would be a stretch to say that you have functioned as a mentor to me, also as a friend. You have helped me mightily. There's like, I'll call Rob once a week and go, "Okay, how you do this? What are you doing?" Like still all the time.
That's so-
all the time. I go like, "Well, how do you get this sound? And what is this? And what is this fuzz face? And what is this thing?" Like I just, so I'm a fan, and I feel like you've been so gracious to kind of openly and freely share your experience and your advice and your way of doing things. And so then when we sit on the floor, almost all the time you play something, I'm like, fuck yeah.
Wow.
Like, I want to hear, I'll lean back over the rack and I'll be like, what guitar is he playing and what's he doing? And so I'm just like enjoying being able to sit next to you and hear what you're doing. And so I want two things. I want to support it. Like if Dan goes, that's the thing, because you're really good about going.
Yeah.
What Rob's doing, we're all coming to that. Or what Kris is doing,
Yeah,
we're all
yeah.
coming to that. That's the thing. And so when you go, all right, we both sit down at the chair. I'm throwing out a thing. You're throwing out a thing. It's not egotistical at that point. It's just spitting ideas into the universe.
Yeah.
And you go, okay, that's the thing.
Yeah.
And I'll go, well, yeah, it is the thing because it's fucking cool. Now, what can I do?
We can't cuss on this podcast. No, go ahead. Yeah.
And now what can I do to support that or to shadow that or to be the yin to the yang of that guitar part? Like that doesn't feel like an ego hit to me. That feels like one of the greatest parts of the job.
Yeah.
But it is easier because I'm a fan of what's coming at me from the other fader. And so then it's like a lot of fun to support, right?
Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
I've said that a lot. You've said experience a lot. I've said, does that make sense a lot?
Well,
I'm going to stop qualifying what
Totally
I say.
makes sense. And I'm assuming that the answer will be in the affirmative to this. Dude,
Right. Love you,
Come on.
man. Anyway.
hug it out.
No.
Yeah.
it's
well,
okay.
It's
No.
okay. We don't have to do that.
That you steal profoundly from one another too.
Yes.
On a daily basis, right? Of course,
Yes.
of course, and you have to, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sherry, a long time ago. This is when I was much younger, man, right? And I had some great thoughts about that time in life. She overheard me one time. Sherry's so protective. She's always been protective since we were kids, you know. And I couldn't make a session, and I don't remember if this was in Los Angeles or if it was here. It may have been in the 90s here or whatever. But regardless, she heard me recommending like a great guitar player for something. And she asked me, she's not in the music business, she said, why would you recommend that person? Because she knew this guy was a ringer. Yeah. And I said, well, because if somebody trusts me enough to hire me and I can't make it, and they say, well, who could do this job? I'm not going to send them somebody that I don't think is I'm going to send them somebody that I think is better than me. Well, aren't you afraid that you may not get that gig then? I said, well, that's fair. I mean, it crossed my mind because yes, could it exist that they form a relationship because of my not going to that session? Yes, and I'm sure that's happened plenty of times. Yeah. But the alternative, I could safely, this is for this scenario of people looking at this, because I think it's easy for and maybe heartbreaking and frustrating for people, on the other side of these cameras, to misinterpret this as just a bunch of smoke being blown up each other's asses at this point. It's not. But I guess my point is, if you don't respect, number one, yourself, but also the situations, somebody needs something, and you shoot them down a rabbit hole of somebody that's lesser just because you want to look like a hero, you see where that's leading. I would assume, tell me if this is true, that you guys would have, and I'm not just exclusively saying you two because there are so many other guitar players that we all love, and we can't have them all here. We only got 3 microphones, so, but that you guys would have no problem if you can't make a gig. Try Kris, knowing full well that somebody may, his apples and oranges, to some degree.
Yeah.
Then you would do that, right? You would.
Well, it happened just the other day. I mean, I realized I was double booked, and I totally.
I'll just pick that up here, guys.
Yeah.
Well,
more than his fair share of the work.
It's really. We don't need to talk about how that happened or anything, but
we can.
It was a clerical error.
There was a clerical error where 2 dates were flying around about one session, and it was supposed to be on this day, and then when they changed it, I just missed that memo. That happens every once in a while. Anyway, I reached out to Kris. I was just like, hey, are you open this day? Because I knew it was kind of short notice, and the producer would really appreciate if I came to the table with a name.
Yeah.
At least an option. But that happens all the time. I mean,
You subbed for me last week?
Yeah.
While I mean, there's
Exactly. I mean, that happens with all of us, right? I mean,
Okay, last one. This is it. You're gonna hate this one. Here's the grenade in the punch bowl, right? Because you got Rob. I know you have to. Oh, you got to go. Oh, this is perfect. Yeah. You got 10. How about 15 seconds? AI.
What do I think of it?
Curious, not curious.
I don't think it's revealed itself yet. I mean, we hear these Suno demos and they just sound silly. It's just cartoonish. It's silly.
I heard one the other day though that blew me away.
I've heard things that tricked me for a minute and blew me away. But somehow in there, I don't know, man. Bring it on. Whatever. Technology's always threatened us, but come on, man. People still like to see someone in person or whatever. It comes across differently, and I think there's always going to be a thirst for finding the real thing. People want authenticity, and
it may push us into that.
It's not called authenticity intelligence. Right, it's not called that. I mean, that's not what that stands for. So fuck it, man. Bring it on. Come on.
Fuck it and bring it on. I love that. That's perfect. Okay.
You can't do it.
You're dismissed if you have to go.
Nah, I'm good.
Okay, good.
I mean, I do have a session. I don't know what these guys are doing.
I have the day off, which you're not supposed to tell.
Oh, yeah.
You're not supposed to tell anyone.
You're
You're supposed to always be working. Yeah. But there was a day I had off, and they'll know. You're not supposed to know.
I'm just old. You guys don't have to deal with that shit. Okay,
I
Kris.
work all day, every day, Dan. All day, every day. I'm always busy.
Okay, so AI, like I said, I'm being a little irreverent, but
the thought that I have about it in its immediacy where it is right now is, what about the younger generation of dudes who were going to come up through the demo ranks? Because I've been on plenty of sessions where we made an AI demo. It's kind of an okay representation of what we're after, but now the band goes and we record it. And so it's like I'm hearing AI demos on master sessions. What happens if AI demos become the norm? And it's kind of weird because it's derivative. I don't know that AI is creating anything new. I think it's just pulling from what has happened.
From everything that has been, right.
And regurgitating that. And so I think you still need the human element to drive that forward. But that's my question, is what happens to the generation of dudes who are going to learn how to be session players in the demo studios?
The basic cutting masters master sessions records, we would call that the big leagues, right? If baseball analogy, this is the farm teams.
Yeah. Right.
Minor league baseball, where the pressure is not quite there. There is pressure, but it's game speed. But you haven't gotten the big contract, and you're right. We all came up through the demo system, and that will probably be greatly affected by it. Any more, Robert? That's it. That's what we got. Okay. Well, thank you. It's like I like this. I'm starting to become the YouTube dude, right?
Yeah.
I'm really pumped. I love the comments, and I appreciate you guys enjoying us and joining us, and I mean, I can't imagine that any of you wouldn't enjoy this any more than I would. You guys are exceptional, and you're articulate, which is also nice because being a musician, you don't necessarily have to be articulate, but you guys are. Thank you for your time and
Thank you.
coming out to the house. And you guys have jackets. Why didn't I? This house is freezing today.
We're in a weird temperature zone.
Yeah,
Now,
Yeah. It's
So
that time of
anyway,
year. Yeah.
look them up.
Thank you.
Look at them. If you don't know them, trust me, you're gonna be more impressed after you look up on Google what these guys do. And hopefully we have another time to extend this conversation. Until then, see you.